What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back, everyone. This is Lee, and yes, today's the day. We'll be talking about a Sigma 24mm 1.4 R series lens versus the Canon 24mm 1.4 L Glass Series 2 lens. So, without further ado, let's begin. So, the Sigma 24mm 1.4 R series lens. This lens costs roughly $850 USD, brand new. It has 9 blades. It features a 77mm filter thread. And also, it has 15 elements, which is really important in the test you will see later on, of course. And this lens was released around 2015. Now, as for the Canon costs roughly $1,550. Yes, this is almost twice as much as the Sigma. It has 8 blades. It also sports a 77mm filter thread, and it has 13 elements versus the 15 on the Sigma. And this lens was released around 2008. Yeah, it's a little while ago, but they're still making it. So yeah, this is how good the lens is, I guess. Now, as for the weight, the Sigma weighs about 681 grams, whereas the Canon weighs about 661 grams. Now, if you take a look at the Canon, you can see that the Canon has a rubber seal around the mount, whereas the Sigma, you don't get none of that. So weather resistant wise, definitely the Canon do have weather resistant, the Sigma does not. And if you take a closer look at the switches, they both have the manual focus and autofocus switches. And also on a side note, the Sigma has a docking station where you could adjust the autofocus, whereas the Canon, I don't think you need to worry about the Canon. The Canon is the Canon. The Canon know their own lenses, so this is nothing for anyone to be concerned about. But definitely the Sigma gives you that opportunity to adjust your autofocus. As for the autofocus noise, this is the Sigma. As you can clearly tell, the Sigma, it's pretty loud. Yeah, it's a pretty loud lens. And here is the Canon. The USM motor in the Canon is a lot quieter than the Sigma. So if you are doing video recording and you're doing autofocus, definitely the Canon is a lot quieter than the Sigma. Now let's take a look at some image quality test. This is 1.4. I'm shooting directly at the sun, by the way, and this is the playground test that I always use. And as you can clearly tell, that Sigma has chromatic aberration issue, whereas the Canon, it seems to have some edge issues. The edges on the Canon seem slightly softer than the Sigma. And also the color tones, definitely the Canon to me seems to be slightly warmer than the Sigma. Sigma seems to be a bit more neutral in my opinion. At f2, the story remains the same. Definitely the edges are a lot better on the Sigma, whereas the Canon is a lot warmer, better chromatic aberration control on this Canon, and that's something for you guys to definitely take note of. At 2.8, it looks like the chromatic aberration on the Sigma is clearing out, and everything else is more or less the same. The edges is still a lot sharper on the Sigma, whereas the Canon is slightly softer, and definitely the Canon seems to be slightly warmer. And here at f4, you can clearly see that there's a flare dot on the Canon. This will show up later on down the test. And also, if you take a look at the edges, definitely I will have to say that the Canon is catching up, but the Sigma is still sharper on the edges than the Canon. And at 5.6, I'll have to say that things are starting to even out. There's no more chromatic aberration on the Sigma. And also the edges seems to be more or less the same in my honest opinion. Maybe a slightly better improvement on the Canon. But yeah, it's a give or take at this point. It's so close right now. And at f8, everything seems to be equal except that the color cast on the Canon is slightly warmer than the Sigma. Now for the next test, this is my Aerostyle test. This is where I show you guys the center sharpness and the vignetting. However, I need to put this test at the end of the video. I'm just gonna give you guys a quick summary because when I did this test, I saw so much differences between each lens. So let me break it down to you guys. Number one, the Sigma is slightly darker than the Canon. That's the 15 elements on the Sigma, whereas the Canon is 13 elements. Number two, there is focus breathing on one of these lenses. If you look at the Sigma, it's slightly zoomed in, whereas the Canon is slightly wider. I went out and I took pictures of rulers, and there you go. There is focus breathing issues on one of these lenses when you're shooting up close. So that's something for you guys to take a note of. Number three, with the vignetting around f4, that's when most of the vignetting disappears, so that's something for you guys to know. Number four, the Canon seems to be slightly warmer than the Sigma. And number five, edge performance, definitely I have to give it to the Sigma. The Sigma does really well on the edges, and we saw that in my initial test, so there you go. Now for the next test, this is my LED video test, and let's take a look at 1.4. It looks more or less the same, to be quite honest. Yeah. And F2, if you take a look at the LED lights, definitely the Canon seems to have the flare thing going on with the LED lights, whereas the Sigma seems to be okay at this point. At 2.8, the story remains the same. And here is f4. Remember my first test where I told you on the Canon had the flare dot? You can clearly tell also on f4, on the Canon, you can see that LED reflection. Look at that. 5.6, story remains the same. Definitely this Canon doesn't do too well with the LED reflection on the glass. And also the LED flaring is not that good on the Canon versus the Sigma. At f8, story remains the same. F11, story remains the same. And 16. Now, for the next test, this is the Bokeh test. Remember, the Sigma has 9 blades, whereas the Canon has 8 blades. And let's be honest, I'm not a big Bokeh guy, so definitely leave the comments down below which Bokeh you guys like. But I can use either one. In my honest opinion, I don't really mind Bokeh balls, to be quite honest. But yeah, there you go. 8 blades versus 9 blades, and yeah. So just to wrap things up, this is $850 versus $1,550, twice as much, just about, almost right. But both lenses do present different qualities. They're basically all unique to my opinion, but it depends what you're looking for, right? I mean, if you're looking for video autofocus that's quiet with weather resistant, definitely the Canon is the way to go. I live here in Seattle. That's the lens I'm using right now. But if you're focusing more on photography, you need the edge-to-edge sharpness, definitely the Sigma is the way to go. And also, I know a lot of documentary shooters use the Sigma. They do manual focusing. So it depends on your skill set. So at the end of the day, it's really up to the individual to decide which one are they looking for. So yeah, that's just that's very interesting. I never done a video that's very different, you know. I mean, same focal length, but it's very different in their own, you know, right. So there you go. There you have it. Yeah, weird. This is such a weird video. But anyways, thank you guys for checking me back. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely click like and subscribe. And don't forget to check out the merch store. And yep, I guess I'll see you guys in the next one, all right? Take it easy. Peace.